Hello and welcome to my October summary. Now this is my video where I go through my sales from the past month and go through all the things that have been happening in WoW for me over the past month and what I'm going to look forward to in the future. Now obviously this one's going to be a big one because we've just had BlizzCon and Shadowlands has been announced and it's absolutely fantastic. We've got the 15th anniversary kicking off today, I believe. So much is happening in WoW. It's absolutely an exciting time to be here. So I thought I'd go through and just give a quick summary of all the gold I've been making over the last month. Now, when I say all the gold, it's actually my worst month ever. And there's a few reasons for that, and I'll go through that in my spreadsheet. So I'll pop over to that now. So as always, I make a spreadsheet of all my sales throughout the month. Now, this month I'll caveat at the beginning with I've been playing a lot of Classic over the course of this month. Just slightly towards the end of the month, I started doing a little bit more of retail. And with my last summary in September, even though I was playing Classic for a lot of that, I was still able to restock and relist and use up the stock I had, and I didn't have to purchase much. However, this month, I've had to restock quite significantly. I've also done a few other bits and pieces of spending, so we can see here the results of me spending even less time on the auction house, and my attempts at the end of the month didn't quite get me to where I wanted to be. But let's go through and have a look at everything first. So we've got here my tailoring, and there's a few usual bits and pieces: spell threads, shirts, bags, death silk shoulders there for the waste of time turn-in. Then we have some notorious combatant sales, so that seems to be just coming through a few bits and pieces here and there. And then some saddle shoots, saddle blanket, a shadowy mask there, and tuxedo pants and bits and pieces like that. So my actual sales for tailoring have been quite reasonable at 121,000. Now I didn't really have to buy a lot for my tailoring. I still had a reasonable amount of stock of everything. So my actual expenditure here is only coming in at 3,000. So tailoring itself is a very reasonable 117,000. So it's not as high as it has been past months, but with a continuous flow of relisting and reposting on, it seems to be okay at the moment. So moving on to my cooking, which, as if you'd seen my past months, has always been a bit hit and miss. Sometimes I make money, sometimes I lose money. It all depends on whether I can get my ingredients cheaply enough and whether I overstock or understock. At the moment here, we've got some good sales of biltong, 220 of those, 13,000 total, and baked potato, 230 of those at 13,000 total. So these are fast becoming the go-to standard food for people. So it really helps to have those well stocked. So 33,000 in sales for those. And then a few different bits and pieces of purchasing. Rubbery flank, the most significant one there, 11,000. An average of 33 gold each. That's quite expensive. And then some stingers and frenzied fangtooth, which means that my actual expenditure is quite high at 21,000, giving me a profit of 12,000. So for a secondary profession, I'm still happy with that. It's positive, which is good. So moving on to leatherworking. Leatherworking's been a bit similar to tailoring, with the notorious gear just ticking along quite nicely. I think I have about 3 or 5, I can't remember which, of any one of these slots on the auction house. You've also had some good sales there of Drums of Fury. So we've got a grand total of 83,000 for leatherworking. So again, expenditure not significant, only 17,000. So again, as a profession, that's reasonable, 65,000 for that. So all in all, it's not massive, but it is looking quite good. So now I've split my alchemy into 2 different sections. I've got the Pandaria alchemy, which is everything I do with El Morte and everything based around living steel, primordial rubies, the panther stuff. So I've actually had a good set of sales there for 25,000. But however, I went on a bit of a spending spree because I saw a load of Spirit of Harmony at a really reasonable price. I bought 132 of that for 137 average. I also bought up some Motes of Harmony for only 11 gold each. So that's another 4,000. So I have actually used up a lot of my gold here. I've overspent 39,000. But the good thing is here, I've got a really good stock of Spirit of Harmony at a good price, and I can start making more of these things, living steel, and anything surrounding that, such as the Golden Lotus, or I could even trade some Harmony into the Trillium ore and sell some of that. There's a few different options you've got there. So this is a future investment, even though I've actually got a loss here of 14,000. So moving on to the BFA alchemy, this is Awakening, who I've just finished the video series on alchemy. So he's been ticking through with his Silas proc. Actually a very good number of sales there, 216,000. So the good sellers here being Flask of the Currents, 62 of those, and Potion of Unbridled Fury, 84 of those, 46 Abyssal Healing Potions, quite cheap those ones though. Flask of Titanic Strength is a good one. So with that 216,000, I have had quite a large expenditure as well here, because I'm trying to keep a good stock of Zenithid and Anchorweed. So I still have quite a lot in the bank, so we're still looking at this as a future investment, trying to buy them below my average buy price when I can. So we actually have spent quite a lot here on the alchemy for the month, 189,000, which means we've only actually got a profit there for the BFA alchemy of 26,000, and then the alchemy combined is 12,400. So it's just about breaking even. It's good that it's in the positive range with the both of them. I think I need to really sort of keep an eye on my expenditure over the next few months, just to see if I can make sure that I stay in a profit for these. Then moving on to enchanting. Now enchanting is normally my best seller, and I've got a few different bits and pieces here. The usual suspects: Accords of Critical Strike here, and Accords of Haste, 36 and 29,000. Even though the volumes here have been good, the average price of these has significantly dropped. It's down to under 1,000 for each of these. And I haven't been around to do any massive resets on the market. I think I did one or two, but I wasn't there continuously enough to capitalize on that, especially on a reset day. So this is a small number of sales compared to my normal enchanting, but still we have a good spread of all the different enchants, giving me a good total here of 269. Now here comes the expenditure. I've actually spent an awful lot here. I've bought a lot of Accords of Critical Strikes and Haste, and my average price of buying these is 800 and 800, so it's not a lot more than they're going for at the moment. And I've still got a good stock of this yet, so that was kind of a reset that hasn't worked out so well. I hope I can shift some more of these at a reasonable price over time. So I've got some Gloom Dust I purchased here for an average of 10 each. I have been also using the Bracelet Shuffle to get my Gloom Dust. Was able to actually sell some of the Umbra Shards here for 30,000, one stack of 200. That was very good at the moment. But then my big expenditure here is the Tide Spray Linen, 195,000 on just Tide Spray Linen. Now I actually still have a huge amount of this stock, at least over 1,000 braces worth in the bank still. So this is future Veiled Crystals for the month ahead. So I shouldn't have to buy so much Tide Spray Linen, but because I had to do this massive restock, and because I bought quite a few of these enchants, our actual expenditure for enchanting for the first time is actually greater than our sales. Which means for the first time, enchanting is actually a negative number. Which, given the situation, given the fact that I've been not listing as much as possible, not keeping an eye on the markets, and then almost knee-jerk reacting and buying a huge amount of stock, ready to get myself back in the game of enchanting. So where I've overspent on those, even though that's extra investment for the future, it does mean for this month I've actually got a negative balance here. And then moving on, we have a huge number of miscellaneous expenses. I've been buying some embroidered deep sea bags just to make sure that everyone, both Samadan and Earthen and my main stock shifters, have got as much bag space as possible. So I ended up spending quite a lot on embroidered deep sea bags. I could have made them myself, but because I don't do dungeons, I don't have all the required materials for it. So I ended up buying them instead. And you'll also notice a lot of heirloom upgrades here. This was a big investment for my new rogue that I've got, Samadan, who's just started his journey at 110, so we can get some more professions going in the future. But combined with my other expenses, this has been a massive investment at probably not the best time when my sales haven't been as high. So once you take all those things into account, my actual miscellaneous expenditure and the fact that enchanting didn't do as well, means my grand total is only actually 53,000 for all professions and everything across the board. So that's not even a token. That's not even a fifth of a token at current prices. So that's way lower than I'm used to. As a gold maker, you can look at this and you can say, okay, well, I can see where I've overspent, I can see where I've not made enough profit. And by doing this monthly recap, it gives me a really good idea as to where I am in the market. And the best thing with this is, because I know this, I can make changes and react accordingly. If I didn't do this monthly summary, I'd be stumbling in the dark and I wouldn't quite know where all my gold was going. So I find this really useful to do every month, and I hope you find it useful even if you don't do what I do. So that's the gold making for the month. Looking at the actual summary, so we can see here in my graph coming into October, the first time the enchanting has gone down. I mean, the lowest it was before was 127,000. It has been up as high as 375,000 at its peak. Tailoring actually did quite well as far as tailoring goes, 117. Leatherworking, a bit middling. A good profit nonetheless, there were some negative ones in there. Cooking, just about keeping its head over the water. And alchemy, at least a profit, considering my reinvestments were more balanced compared to my enchanting. And then a miscellaneous big spend here of a future character investment. So that's something I can recoup later as I get more professions. So giving me a grand total for the year so far, just under 5.5 million. So we haven't made any significant increases here. So looking at my graph, you can see here, obviously it's a big drop down and nothing particularly high. All these bars quite low. And obviously the big downward green one here is my miscellaneous expenditure. So that's dragging the whole lot down. If I didn't have that, we'd be in a much better position. We'd be sitting at nearly 200,000. So these are all choices really, but it's interesting to see nonetheless. So that's the gold making side of things. Obviously there's a lot more that's been going on. So big thing to talk about was obviously Shadowlands. Now, what an announcement that was. The cinematic was amazing. It was beautifully detailed, so well animated, and the story had so many twists and surprises. It was actually amazing to see the audience's reactions and also just have my own reaction. So it's really set the stage for an expansion that I'm really looking forward to. So my take on it at the moment, Shadowlands, it's looking really nice as a framework for all the potential things we can do. And my first instinct on it, even though it looks a lot like Harry Potter in that you got the Arbiter, which is like a sorting hat, and you've got 4 houses, and you've got a big baddie like the Jailer or Voldemort if you like. Those similarities aside, my impression of this expansion is it's extremely alt friendly. So my plan for this expansion, with all the leveling changes and all the things that I wish I could have done, like going through and leveling up in Pandaria as a whole storyline, and the fact that we've got these 4 covenants, each with their own storylines, abilities and things like that, I can see myself actually having 4 main characters, 1 for each covenant, so I can try all the different things out and get abreast of the story as a whole. Now obviously my plan is going to have professions as well tied in with that, and with the things they were talking about with professions, especially like using gems to specify the actual type of upgrade you wanted when you're crafting your items, that is really promising. So I hope they can really balance out professions, and my plan will be to actually have as many professions as I can so I can go with the markets and adapt to what's selling well and what new and interesting things come out which other people might need, and I can provide them. So the whole tower progression that's like the mage tower in the Maw, that sounds really promising, because I'm sure people are going to be min-maxing that and using various items, potions, inscriptions, whatever, to try and get the best out of that possible. I really like the way they're going to do the level squish, in that it seems like it's going to be a chromey instance whilst you're leveling, yet when you're normally a max level character you can go back to those zones and you can farm those things as and when you like, so that's really promising. Obviously we've also got the new auction house changes coming in 8.3, which I believe is going to be early next year or probably get released, so that's going to change the markets as well when it comes to gold making. I was a bit disappointed to see no further progression on the blending of factions. The whole storyline has been building up towards this, and what with Saurfang and Anduin talking about breaking the chain, and everything hinting at Horde and Alliance coming together in a more cooperative fashion, I was really hopeful that we'd see a loosening of those rules, especially when we got all these symbols up on the right here. Now my take on the Q&A when they talked about this was that it seemed to be more of a locked down, hard-coded problem that would take a great deal of time and effort to unpick all of those things that completely separate Horde and Alliance. Not just the quest lines, but how they interact with each other, and even how NPCs react and factions work. And I know I'm not universal in wanting to have the divide loosened, because there's so many people who love doing PvP, and so people want to keep that. So I'm sure Blizzard are looking at this and thinking, well, the audience is divided, not everyone wants it, and is it really worth us doing all this work for just a small section? Personally, I would love it if they did. I think it would be really good, especially myself on a PvE server, which is player versus environment, and it's such a shame that half the player base I can't even play with, because they're on another faction. I think EverQuest did it way back when you could play with anyone, but certain races were hated in certain cities, so the guards would attack them on sight, but the players themselves had complete choice over who they played with, and that for me worked really well. But I can understand it's a logistical nightmare, so perhaps in the future it's something they'll consider, maybe even just for PvE servers. So what about Classic? Well, I'm still enjoying Classic, I'm still loving playing with it. I'm levelling in my own sort of gentle pace. I'm level 33 at the moment, so I'm getting close to that 35 mark, where I'm going to maximise out my professions, tailoring and enchanting, and see what I can do on the gold making front of that. Once I get to that stage, I'll share all the things that I've learned, but at the moment I've really been enjoying just levelling up, enjoying the zone. It's a very, very much more relaxed pace compared to BFA, and they both have their own appeals. I've really noticed the difference having levelled with as my Samadan here in Classic, and then moving over to Samadan, my new rogue, and going through the BFA content so quickly. It's like going 1 to 10 in Classic is the speed at which you seem to be going 110 to 120 in BFA. You're just racing through the world. It's really convenient, and they're both really good fun in their own ways. I'm having huge amounts of fun with both of them. So I haven't abandoned Classic, I'll still be levelling up here and there, but obviously the shift has gone now towards BFA, especially as my gold making wasn't so good in October. I really want to ramp that back up. I also want to work on Samadan, my rogue, and get another couple of professions, thinking blacksmithing and jewel crafting, or maybe inscription, I'm not sure. And then of course we've got all the anniversary stuff that's coming out, the World Breaker mount, which looks absolutely amazing. I've seen people getting those today, so I'd like to join in that fun myself. You've got the XP and reputation enhancements, tie that in with Darkmoon Fair, and you'll be able to get all the different reputations that you're missing out on. I'm not exalted with any of the BFA factions yet, so maybe that's something I can work on as well. So there's absolutely loads to do in the game, and I'm not even doing dungeons or mythic pluses or any of that endgame content. I'm just working on my characters, progressing them all in their own professions, and enjoying levelling up new ones. And then with all the excitement of Shadowlands coming out, it's just an amazing time to be into World of Warcraft, no matter which version you play. So I'm really excited for November. There's going to be lots to do. I'm going to try and spread out my time as much as possible. And then obviously we're going to have the run up for Christmas and lots of stuff going on then. And hopefully I'll have enough gold to then buy the Shadowlands pre-purchase and get myself another 120 boost. And then get another character and finalise out those last two professions, engineering and whichever one I haven't chosen with the other one. So even though it was a terrible month for gold making, October was great fun, and I'm really looking forward to what the future brings with WoW. So that's where I am at the moment. I hope you found that useful and gave you some ideas as to either what not to stock up on and what not to sell, or what to sell and what to do with your time. And I'd be really interested to hear what you think of Shadowlands coming up and how you think gold making is going to work with it. Personally, I'm really looking forward to it, especially with all my ults. So until next time, happy gold making, and I'll see you very soon.